Hey guys, welcome to another Wednesday episode. I'm calling this one Horrifying Horcruxes and Where to Find Them. So today I'm going to go through each of the Horcruxes in chronological order, and then at the end I will be giving you my theory on how I think Horcruxes are made, since nobody actually knows for sure and we can just theorize whatever the hell we want to. So I will be throwing that on the end of today's video, but before that, let's go through each Horcrux and how it was found by Voldemort, how it was turned into a Horcrux, how it was found by Dumbledore or Harry or anybody else, and how it was destroyed. Thanks for watching. Before we can get started with anything that has to do with Voldemort and his 7 Horcruxes, we need to talk about Herpo the Foul. He was a wizard back in like ancient Greek times. He's supposedly the first wizard to have ever done the process of creating a Horcrux, likely the one to have invented it himself. He was the only other wizard to have ever to have ever created a Horcrux besides Voldemort himself. I also did find it mentioned by J.K. Rowling on the Wizarding World website that Herpo the Foul also had a basilisk, and this basilisk, we believe, might have lived about 900 years. It is seen a couple times through a few Harry Potter video games, but J.K. Rowling does mention that he had one on the Wizarding World website, so remember this fact for later. But Herpo the Foul could also speak Parseltongue. He is also featured on a card for like a chocolate frog, and he can be seen with snakes and things like that. But he was known to have like a bunch of normal snakes and a snake that was around his like walking staff all the time. So very deeply Slytherin vibes, you know? The Slytherin before the Slytherin. Now, flash forward a couple good centuries, and December 31st, 1926, Tom Riddle Jr. was born in Wool's orphanage. And then in 1938, Tom Riddle Jr. did start at Hogwarts and begun his education. Now, the next date of note that is pertinent to what we're discussing today is 1941, when Tom Riddle has that conversation with Slughorn about how many Horcruxes does he think he can make. So it is presumed that it was about this year that Tom first started reading about Horcruxes. I do believe there was only 2 books in the entire library that had anything to do with Horcruxes, and one only mentioned it, and the other one was like the only written form of the process of making a Horcrux, and I believe it was called The Secrets of the Darkest Arts. Now, Dumbledore removed both of these books, and now we say all of the books about Horcruxes, but I think there's only 2, so both of these books from the library when he became headmaster, but Dumbledore was Transfiguration Professor while Tom Riddle was there. He wasn't headmaster, so those books would have still been in the library, right? And we also get this confirmed in chapter 15 of Chamber of Secrets when Aragog says something like, maybe now we'll finally have a good headmaster, meaning this one was probably going to be over soon, and Dumbledore would have become headmaster very soon after Tom Riddle had completed the first Horcrux with Myrtle Warren's death. Now this takes us to our very first Horcrux, Tom Riddle's diary. Now he did have this diary with him from the orphanage when he came to Hogwarts, and he had used his orders to tell the basilisk to kill Myrtle as the Muggle sacrifice that, you know, fulfilling the prophecy, fulfilling what he was meant to do as the heir to Slytherin, as what the basilisk was meant to do. But this means that from Tom Riddle's conversation with Slughorn to Myrtle's death means that there was like a year, it was from some month, I'm not really exactly sure when, but sometime in 1941 through the end of the school year in 1943. This could have been up to 2 years, as little as a year and a half, somewhere around there, that it took Voldemort to actually learn and successfully perform this charm. Now, there is some debate that you have to be the one to Avada Kedavra a soul for it to work. So how would the basilisk, being the one that killed Myrtle, count in him making a Horcrux? It is mainly theorized that it's because it was on Voldemort's orders that he killed, the basilisk killed her, so that's why it counted, because it was his orders and it was his true, genuine intent to kill her, and he really like wanted to. But I actually have a different theory, so we're going to remember this for the end of this video, and I think a basilisk actually plays a really big role in the whole like theory of everything, and I don't think anybody's really talked about it. I couldn't find anybody that's talked about this, and I had this really crazy idea today, and I'm so excited to tell you guys about it, but I have to explain everything first. I'm sorry. Okay, back on track. The next Horcrux would have been the Gaunt signet ring. So in August of 1943, after tracking his name, Tom Riddle went to go find Marvolo to find who, he was named after, to find his family. He locates the Gaunt shack and he goes inside. He finds his cousin, not his uncle. He finds his uncle Morphin, who had been released from Azkaban after a 3-year sentence for attacking Tom Riddle Jr.'s father, Tom Sr., and he also then, in that conversation with his uncle, finds out that Marvolo is already dead and he had died soon after he was released from Azkaban after his 3-month sentence because he couldn't take care of himself, and Merope had fled the coop with her muggle man. But anyway, after Tom Riddle Jr. meets his uncle Morphin, he then learns about his father, Tom Riddle Sr., and that he lives up on this hill, and that he totally abandoned his pregnant mother, and that all of these things happened. After finding out about his actual father, Tom then stuns Morphin, takes his wand, goes up the hill to the Tom Riddle mansion, family home, villa, whatever it is, and he Avada Kedavras Tom Riddle Sr. and both of his grandparents, or not Tom Riddle's Sr.'s grandparents, Tom Riddle Jr.'s grandparents, Tom Riddle Sr.'s parents. Sorry. Anyway, Avada Kedavras all of them, goes back to the Gaunt shack, confunduses his uncle Morphin to make him think that he did all of that, and then he gives him back his wand and he steals the signet ring and he's out of there. The Ministry then comes and Morphin's like, it was me, I did it, check my wand. You can see that it was the last spell I cast too, and closed case, he's gone to Azkaban for the rest of his life, and Voldemort now had the Resurrection Stone unknowingly, but had what he was then going to make his next 2 Horcruxes. So from what I understand, Tom went and Avada Kedavra'd his father and then came back and got the ring. I don't truly completely understand how the magic of making a Horcrux works and how it's possible to not do it in that moment, that it's not so much anything that has to do with the person that died, it more has to do with you. So it's like your soul is already ripped and you have no time limit, maybe a time limit, maybe the time limit is kind of long, maybe you have a gray area where you can hurry back and get that soul fragment out of you. I'm not sure how it exactly works, but there is a bit of time between when he Avada Kedavra'd his father and then actually turned the ring into a Horcrux with that death. So that doesn't totally make sense to me, and I really haven't figured out how to fit that into my theory yet. So let me know if you have any ideas. I would love to hear it in the comments. So at this point, Tom Riddle's just getting away with everything. He's tying up knots. Everything has been laid super neatly. He is fine. He is chilling. He is in the green. Everything's good for him. So he graduates Hogwarts. He goes on and he works at Borkin & Burke's. He's very charming. He's very charismatic. He is able to persuade people very easily. This is why he was able to hide and conceal his true nature for so long. He was just really able to play the part and butter it on thick. The owner of Borkin & Burke's shop at the time was actually using this and sending Tom Riddle to go talk to people to get them to give up their treasures, to get them to sell things to the shop. And this is how Tom Riddle found out that Hephaestus Smith, a descendant of Helga Hufflepuff and mother of Zachariah Smith that we do meet in the books, this is how we find out that she has the Slytherin locket and the Hufflepuff cup. But how did she get the Slytherin locket? The locket was in the Gaunt family, but after both Marvolo and Morphin went off to Azkaban, Merope had to sell it as she was pregnant. She really needed money and to take care of herself, so she had to sell the locket to Borkin & Burke's, and one day while Hephaestus Smith was in there, she purchased it, so that's how she ended up with it. Voldemort had to kind of make a plan on how to get this from her and how he was going to blame it on somebody else to really make it happen. Tom Riddle ended up using Hephaestus' house elf Hokey and confronted her and made her think that she did it and made her admit to it and just framed her for the entire thing, left the wand in her hand and all. Or no, that was a figure of speech. There was not a wand in her hand. That was basically me saying caught red-handed. He had poisoned her cocoa and said that Hoki had accidentally poisoned her cocoa. So that's how that happened. Now, it is fairly obvious that Voldemort was really trying to go for something from each of the founding fathers, and it was very likely that he was going for the Sword of Gryffindor. I absolutely see it. Many other people have theorized that as well. And I do think if he had Horcruxed the Sword of Gryffindor, then he would have been unstoppable, because that's really what they used half the time to end all of those Horcruxes. And really it was the basilisk venom, but like it was very often the Sword of Gryffindor. And I think if he had had that one, it really would have been like that magic number 7, and it really would have worked. It's only because Harry was 7 and not the sword that it didn't work. Well, actually, Nagini was 7, Harry was 6, but that's besides the point. Anyway, back on track. Tom Riddle did use Hepaziah Smith's death to Horcrux the Hufflepuff cup. So then he later on was holding onto the Slytherin locket, and while he was hiding away in Albania after fleeing this entire murder scene, he then goes and hides away in Albania for a little while, and it's described as a Muggle tramp. I'm not sure what exactly that describes, like a Muggle woman who's having relations with a wizard man, woman, whoever she chooses. But yeah, I don't know. It's just described as Muggle tramp. Sorry. But anyway, he Horcruxed a Muggle tramp into the Slytherin locket. So that's how that one happened. Like I said earlier, Voldemort really wanted to get something from each of the founding members of Hogwarts. So while he was still at Hogwarts, he had befriended the Grey Lady, and he really got on her good side, made friends with her, schmoozed her up, all the stuff that he's really good at doing. And he got her to tell the story about what she did with her mother's diadem. Now, the reason she's a ghost is because she had stolen her mother's diadem, ran off, and then they had sent Bloody Baron to come after her, and everybody ended up dead. So that's how Bloody Baron and her both ended up ghosts at Hogwarts. And actually, I think I might do a story about them on TikTok this week, because I really like that story. I like to just keep the information very closely to what I'm talking about, because otherwise I will go off on tangent and side note, and I will never stay on track. So I just need to curb how far I go into the story world. So that's why I kind of section things off. I'm sorry. I do believe it was after he had Horcruxed the Slytherin locket that he then went on his way to find the diadem of Ravenclaw, because the Grey Lady, or Helga, her name's Helga, I'm right. Helga Ravenclaw, she had hidden it in a hollow tree somewhere in Albania. So Tom Riddle then went on a mission to go find that. Somehow he found a hollow tree somewhere in Albania. I don't know. But he found it, and then he used a Muggle peasant and Horcruxed them into the Ravenclaw diadem. One thing that also never really made sense to me about how this whole Horcrux magic works is, how can you do one on accident? Like, I thought you had to intentionally, after Avada Kedavraing somebody, you have to then intentionally cast this spell to then Horcrux that fragment of your soul into something. So I never really understood how Harry was an accident. We do get a little bit of an explanation about this. Dumbledore really just kind of says that after splitting his soul 5 times already, he was just so unstable that he just combusted into soul fragments. That's just how my brain understands it. I'm like, okay, he's been reduced out of physical form, so he's just like a wisp, like what we see come out of Quirrell's body. That was Voldemort's last soul fragment, I think, and he had attached onto Quirrell. And J.K. Rowling did say at some point in a little interview somewhere, I remember reading something where she did say that Quirrell was technically a Horcrux because he was using that soul fragment to keep himself alive. And then Harry's love spell that was on him killed the Horcrux, killed the host, and then, it killed the Horcrux. Quirrell would have been the Horcrux. It killed the Horcrux, and then the soul fragment still flew off into wherever. But I don't understand how that couldn't have happened in other ways. We see his soul fragment come out of most of the other Horcruxes. We see, granted I'm just going off of the movies, but it does describe each of the Horcruxes. It gives off some sort of something. Each one has its own defense. Even the diadem oozes this black blood ink sort of thing. So each one has something that exits it after its death. So I don't know. But yeah, I pretty much imagine that after he has been just ripped into a couple soul fragments, that one of them floated onto Harry and the other one whirled away and then went off to Albania to hide. And I just kind of envision it the way we see the soul fragment of Voldemort leave Quirrell's decaying body in Philosopher's Stone. Now, this damaged soul fragment of Voldemort had the impression or the perception that he had only created 5 Horcruxes, and he had ideally wanted to make 7 because that's like the magic number. So he still wanted to make 1 more, or 2 more. Now, it was after Prisoner of Azkaban where Peter had been revealed as not a rat, but a human man, and he had scurried away and found Voldemort out in Albania, and he used this like very rudimentary body potion and gave him that like decrepit little Gollum from Lord of the Rings like thing of a body. So he gave him this like semi-human-ish oid form thing. From this, Voldemort was essentially strong enough to be able to make another Horcrux. Now, after he had become into this weird little form, he had found out that the diary had been destroyed, so that one was already gone. Then I guess Voldemort would have thought he only had 4 Horcruxes if the diary's already gone, and then the other 4 are the only ones left. So he's like, okay, I need to make another one. I need to protect myself. Like, we need to like get this situated. So Peter Pettigrew goes out into the world and he goes and finds somebody to get Horcruxed for Voldemort. He comes back to wherever Voldemort's hiding with this ministry worker named Bertha Jorkins, and at that point, the little decrepit form of Voldemort Horcruxes that poor woman into, what was the last one? Oh, into Nagini. He Horcruxes her into Nagini because he had already found her at this point and they had bonded, and he was drinking her venom to keep himself alive. Gross, right? We are now going to just fast forward through time to the next Horcrux that gets destroyed, which is the Gaunt family ring. As Dumbledore starts to get more suspicious of what Tom Riddle has done in these Horcruxes and kind of trying to figure things out and piecing things together, he goes digging in Tom's past and he traces the Marvolo name to the Gaunt shack, goes, checks it out. There's all these charms and stuff over it, concealment, defensive, protective charms, whatever. Dumbledore takes everything down and he ends up finding the ring under the floorboards. I believe it was in a gold box. It was in some sort of box, but it was under the floorboards. So Dumbledore goes digging through the shack. He comes out with this and he I won't say immediately, but he does recognize it as to be something special. He recognizes it to be something more, and he sees the dark magic, but he sees more than that. And he eventually realizes it's the resurrection stone. Now, after Dumbledore puts it on, it does have this sort of defensive magic on it to where it does curse the wearer, and that is how Dumbledore gets the curse on his hand. Snape then has to contain it to his hand, and he only has a year to live, but we've got other plans before that can happen anyway. Now, Dumbledore himself does use the Sword of Gryffindor to kill this Horcrux, the Signet Ring. So that's how that one is done and over with. We now have 2 killed Horcruxes. Now, the Slytherin Locket takes itself a nice little trip through history. So it does get concealed in this cave where Voldemort had done something to these 2 children on some field trip with the orphanage, and they just came out totally weird and bonkers after that. And so he went back and he tucked the ring away in there, and he did unspeakable things to our beloved creature, in which Regulus was like, absolutely not. I'm not having it. I'm no longer a Death Eater for you. We're done. We're breaking up, and we are never, ever, 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 ever getting back together, like ever. Regulus then takes it upon himself to try and find this locket and destroy it. He doesn't make it out, but he makes sure Creature does, and he gives Creature the task of destroying it. Now, it does almost get thrown away by Harry and the Weasleys and everybody else who's cleaning up 12 Grimmauld Place as they're getting rid of all the dark stuff from the Black family history, and they're getting it ready for it to be at the headquarters for the Order of the Phoenix. Creature sees this locket in the pile of garbage and he hides it away in his cupboard. A little while after that, it's when Mundungus Fletcher then comes and robs the house and takes it, and then Umbridge ends up having it, and then they've got to break into the Ministry and take it from Umbridge, and that's a really fun hoopla. Next, we spend a horrifyingly long time with the Slytherin Locket until we finally get the Sword of Gryffindor, and Ron finally ends that one, even though that one tried to bring out Ron's worst fears as its own defensive mechanism. The Hufflepuff cup. Now they have to go through this whole ordeal at the Malfoy Manor before they can figure out where this is. They get in there, they take the cup. Voldemort loses his mind. He realizes they're onto him. He realizes what's happening. He knows they have the cup, and then Harry gets this vision about the Ravenclaw diadem. And he's like, shit, we got to go to the school now. While at the school, Ron and Hermione get a basilisk fane, and I do believe in the books it is Ron that destroys the Hufflepuff cup in the books. And Harry, after talking to the Grey Lady, then remembers that he had previously seen the diadem in the Room of Requirement himself when he was hiding the Half-Blood Prince's book. It was just like sitting on this like figure thing with like a wig, and it was just like sitting right there. So he goes straight for that. He goes to find it, but we know that it was Crabbe, Goyle, and Draco. We know Crabbe, Goyle, and Draco then go and follow them into the Room of Requirement. Crabbe then sets off the fiend fire that he simply cannot control, and after they all make it out of the Room of Requirement in the books, Harry sees the burned diadem, and like I said, it just started oozing this black liquid, and then it just fell apart. It just combusted. That was it. It was over. So the fiend fire can actually kill a Horcrux. It's not just basilisk venom. And then there were two. Now, absolutely nobody has any idea that Harry is a Horcrux except for Dumbledore and Snape. So Harry then very valiantly walks to his death, and because it is a true sacrifice, his soul is saved. And as the Horcrux is killed, Harry is able to choose to come back to the land of the living and live on. But this death does show that Avada Kedavra could kill a Horcrux. But why didn't that kill Nagini? Like, why couldn't they have Avada Kedavra Nagini if Avada Kedavra worked on Harry? So that's what I don't understand. I should have Googled that a little bit more before I started this video. Too late now. Now, it is after Voldemort and his army believe they have triumphantly marched their way back to Hogwarts and that they have killed the great Harry Potter. It is Neville using the sword of Gryffindor to chop Nagini up like sushi that then ensues the fighting again, and then everybody's like, oh my god, Harry's alive, oh my god, the last Horcrux is dead, oh my god, shit's about to go down. But that is the end of the last Horcrux, and then we know that Voldemort crumbles after that. Okay guys, it's theory time. I'm excited. We know how Voldemort was conceived under a love potion. He had a total inability to ever feel love. And there's only one other person that's ever been able to complete the process of a Horcrux, and he's literally known as Herpo the Foul. Probably didn't have any capacity to feel love either. I'm kind of thinking of this like concept of the Grinch. His heart's just too small, and as we know about the unforgivable curses, you really have to mean it for them to work. You truly, truly have to be able to murder somebody in actual cold blood for this Horcrux process to work. So only somebody who is completely incapable of love or any remorse could be capable of this, because I really feel like if there's even one thing, like it's almost like the spell judges your soul. If there's even one thing in your life, one teeny tiny, like everybody has one teeny tiny thing. Even the Grinch eventually had one teeny tiny thing. If you have one thing that makes you have any capacity for love, you can't do it. That's what I think. So that's why I think only two people were capable of performing this spell. J.K. Rowling, I think, has described the process in a couple different ways, but like she will never give actual details. I think for a while some people thought it was like just one spell, but now she at some point has said, and then you've got to do a couple things, but it's too foul to describe. So what do we think these couple things are? And I think you have to do these couple things before you can even cast the spell. I mean, think about how complicated she made the process of becoming an animagus. It's probably something that's really complicated with a bunch of steps where maybe you have to do a potion and everything that you have to collect. It's like something so like god awful that you have to collect to even make this potion. Like I'm thinking like it probably has to do with like self-mutilation in some way, because we literally know that every Horcrux Tom Riddle Voldemort makes, he gets more and more and more snake-like. So this is where I bring in the basilisk. I don't think that Tom Riddle was going into the Chamber of Secrets because he thought he was the heir to Slytherin. I think he was hunting a basilisk, and that he needed a basilisk to be able to perform his first Horcrux. And that's why whatever his name is, whoever the foul, I can't think of it right now, whoever the foul was able to do it too, because he had a basilisk. I think that because basilisk venom is one of the only things that can kill a Horcrux, it's one of the very few things that can kill a Horcrux, it is a weakness because it's part of it, and it's part of what you have to do to make it. I don't know how, and we know that like Voldemort drinks Nagini's venom to stay alive, so maybe you have to drink the venom of a basilisk and slowly adapt your body to the venom. But I think this is why the basilisk was able to kill Myrtle and it count as a Horcrux, because maybe the basilisk has to be the first death. Maybe that's why he's like, okay, do you have to use a basilisk every time you kill somebody, or just like the first time you kill somebody and then you can keep doing it because you have the basilisk venom in your body? Maybe that's why he was turning more and more snake-like. I think it's the basilisk. I think it has something to do with that, and that's it. It has something to do with the basilisk. I'm never going to be able to stop thinking about this theory, and I will continue to update you guys as I develop and process it and pull in more evidence, I think. But I'm confident. Like, I think it was just right in front of us the whole time. Like, maybe she was hinting at it the entire time. Like, maybe the answer is just right in front of us and nobody's put it together yet, you know? Like, if Hermione was able to figure out that a basilisk was in that chamber, then maybe Tom Riddle was just hunting the basilisk and he was just like, oh shit, there's a legend about the Chamber of Secrets and the monster that's in there is said to be a basilisk. The basilisk is exactly what I need. Now I know where to find one, and now I don't have to lay a chicken egg under a toad to be able to make one and grow it and raise it myself. Now I can actually find one that's already made, and then along the way, he finds out he's the heir to Slytherin, and then that's what sends him to go find his family after the fact. I think that you have to have a basilisk to at least make the first one. And I think that whoever the foul from ancient Greek also used his basilisk to make one. Let me know what you guys think about it, but I'm really proud of it, and I'm absolutely sticking to that. But I'm always open to hear what you have to say. Please tell me if it doesn't make sense, and I will absolutely be open to listening to you, I promise. Please tell me if it doesn't make sense, because I've just been on a roll all day and I can't see outside of what I'm seeing. I've got blinders on right now. Okay, this video was like really fun to make. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments, because I feel like I had a bunch of questions and a bunch of really wild theories in this video, so I would love to know your thoughts and feelings about everything that I had to say today. As always, I will be hanging out on TikTok all week, and I will see you guys on Sunday. Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe if you feel like it.